There is a truth that has spanned centuries like a sharp blade, cutting through modern illusions, psychological justifications, and libertarian discourses that attempt to mask what Marcus Aurelius already knew 2,000 years ago. Every man carries within himself a primordial force that can lift him to the heavens or drag him to the abyss. This force isn't just impulse, it's not merely biological need. It is the very fire of creation, the essence of vitality, the source of all magnetism and personal power. And you, at this very moment, are deciding what to do with it. The question that echoes through the corridors of human history remains cruel and inescapable. Are you the master or slave of your own energy? Do you command the fire that burns in your veins, or do you allow it to consume you in small bonfires of immediate pleasure, leaving only ashes where there could be a forge capable of shaping empires? Marcus Aurelius, the last of the great philosopher-emperors, knew that the difference between an ordinary man and an extraordinary man lay not in external talents, but in the ability to transform the most primitive impulses into directed force, into ardent purpose, into a magnetic presence that moves mountains and conquers destinies. Today, as you navigate a world that bombards your senses with constant stimuli, that normalizes the pursuit of easy pleasure, and that sells the illusion that release is liberation, you are confronted with an ancient choice. The same choice Marcus Aurelius faced when he understood that governing an empire began with governing himself. The same choice Napoleon Hill codified when he discovered that every great leader, every visionary, every fortune builder had learned the secret of sexual transmutation, the inner alchemy that transforms the lead of desire into the gold of achievement. Modern society whispers soft lies in your ears, telling you that masturbation is natural, healthy, necessary. It builds a house of cards where immediate pleasure is sold as self-knowledge, where physical release is confused with emotional freedom, where emptiness is masked as fulfillment. But Marcus Aurelius, in the silent pages of his Meditations, reminds us that human nature operates on deeper layers than the mere satisfaction of instincts. He knew that every time a man yields to impulse without purpose, he not only loses vital energy, he loses a fragment of his willpower, a piece of his capacity for direction, a part of his personal power. The philosopher-emperor observed that the human mind is like a city. When the gates are left open to any invader, when there is no discipline in the streets, when citizens act on impulse without consideration for the common good, what follows is chaos, decay, and eventual downfall. Your sexual energy is the most potent force dwelling in the city of your psyche. It can be the army that conquers external territories, success, influence, creation, or it can be the uncontrolled mob that destroys everything of value you've built internally. When you surrender to compulsive masturbation, you're not just releasing physical tension, you're discharging the primordial battery that fuels your ambition, your creativity, your ability to persist in the face of obstacles. You're draining the source of your magnetic presence, of that undefinable something that makes people turn when you enter a room, that makes your words carry weight, that makes your ideas have the power of realization. Marcus Aurelius understood that discipline is not the negation of human nature, but its highest expression. It is not repression, but direction. It is not castration, but multiplication. Sexual transmutation, a concept that Napoleon Hill discovered by studying history's great achievers, is not an abstract theory invented by frustrated moralists. It is a natural law as concrete as gravity, as measurable as electricity. When you learn to consciously channel your sexual energy for creative purposes, when you transform the fire of desire into fuel for your projects, when you convert the urgency of pleasure into the urgency of achievement, you are not just changing a behavior, you are activating an archetypal mechanism that separates ordinary men from extraordinary men. Think of Nikola Tesla building world-changing inventions while channeling his vital energy into creation. Sexual energy is, in fact, vital energy in its most concentrated form. It is the force that nature intended for the creation of new life, for the perpetuation of the species, for the maintenance of biological continuity. When you waste it on sterile pleasures, you are diverting the very source of life from its natural purposes. It's like taking the electricity that could light a city and using it to light matches. Technically possible, but energetically disastrous. Napoleon Hill discovered that all great achievers in history learned, consciously or unconsciously, to redirect their sexual energy for creative purposes. He observed that men at the peak of their creative productivity were also men who had learned sexual transmutation, not necessarily through celibacy, but through the conscious channeling of that energy into projects that transcended immediate personal gratification. They learned that the same urgency that can lead to compulsive masturbation can be transformed into urgency of achievement, into creative impetus, into directed force for building something greater than themselves. Imagine your sexual energy as a powerful river. When you allow it to flow aimlessly, it can cause destructive floods. It can spread into stagnant swamps. It can get lost in 1,000 small streams that lead nowhere. But when you build conscious dams, when you channel this river through well-designed turbines, when you direct its force for specific purposes, it can generate enough energy to light entire cities, to power industrial machines, to transform entire landscapes. If you are watching this content, it's because something within you already knows that there is a deeper truth behind the superficial discourses about sexuality. You feel that there is untapped potential, a dormant force, a capacity for achievement that remains locked while you remain a slave to impulses. And if you are ready to begin this journey of transmutation, if you are willing to trade temporary pleasures for lasting power, then subscribe to this channel and activate the notification bell. Because in the next content, we will dive even deeper into the practical secrets of sexual transmutation, into the specific techniques that great masters use to channel this energy, into the disciplines that transform ordinary men into extraordinary men. Don't let this information get lost. It could be the key you've been looking for to unlock your true potential. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that discipline is not sacrifice, but investment. When you choose not to masturbate today, you are not depriving yourself of pleasure, you are accumulating power for tomorrow. You are building a reserve of vital energy that can be directed for purposes that truly matter. You are strengthening the muscles of your willpower, expanding your capacity to resist destructive impulses, developing the kind of self-control that separates leaders from followers, creators from consumers, achievers from dreamers. Every time you resist the urge to masturbate, you are doing more than just avoiding a behavior. You are practicing the art of self-mastery, refining your ability to choose consciously instead of reacting automatically, strengthening your identity as someone who is not governed by external impulses. You are building the kind of character that can sustain great endeavors, that can persist through prolonged difficulties, that can maintain focus on long-term goals while others are distracted by immediate gratifications. Compulsive masturbation is not just an isolated habit. It is a symptom of a life without directed purpose, of energy that has not found adequate channels of expression, a vital force that is being wasted because it has not been channeled into significant projects. When you develop a clear mission, when you find a purpose that truly inspires you, when you build goals that demand all your energy and concentration, the urge for compulsive masturbation naturally diminishes, because your vital energy finds higher channels of expression. Think of your own experience. When you are deeply engaged in an important project, when you are in the flow of creation, when you are totally focused on something that truly matters, the sexual impulse becomes less urgent, less dominant. This happens because the same energy that fuels the sexual impulse is being used to fuel the creative impulse. There is no repression, there is redirection. There is no denial, there is transmutation. The secret is not to fight against the sexual impulse, but to elevate it, to transform it, to use its force for higher purposes. When you learn to do this, you discover that sexual energy is not just about sex. It is about life, about creation, about the force that moves the world. You discover that the same fire that can burn in fantasies and masturbation can burn in revolutionary projects, in transformative visions, in achievements that leave lasting marks on the world. Marcus Aurelius understood that human nature operates in layers. On the surface, there are immediate impulses, fleeting desires, apparent needs. But in deeper layers, there are dormant potentials, undeveloped capacities, forces waiting for conscious direction. Compulsive masturbation keeps you trapped on the surface, satisfying immediate needs but preventing access to the deeper layers of your potential. Modern society has created an epidemic of weak, distracted men, without clear purpose, addicted to cheap pleasures and quick fixes. It bombards you with constant sexual stimuli, normalizes compulsive masturbation, sells the illusion that release is liberation. But Marcus Aurelius knew that true freedom does not come from satisfying desires, but from mastering them. It does not come from surrendering to impulses, but from the ability to direct them consciously. The man who masters his sexual energy develops a magnetic presence that cannot be taught in leadership courses, a willpower that cannot be bought in self-help stores, a capacity for focus that cannot be developed through superficial techniques. He develops these qualities because he learns to operate from the most powerful energy source in human beings, the vital energy that nature intended for the creation of new life. When you channel this energy for creative purposes, when you transform sexual impulse into impulse for achievement, when you convert the urgency of pleasure into urgency of purpose, you are not just changing one aspect of your life, you are transforming the energetic basis of your entire existence. Marcus Aurelius understood that human nature operates in layers. On the surface, there are immediate impulses, fleeting desires, apparent needs. But in deeper layers, there are dormant potentials, undeveloped capacities, forces waiting for conscious direction. Compulsive masturbation keeps you trapped on the surface, satisfying immediate needs but preventing access to the deeper layers of your potential. Modern society has created an epidemic of weak, distracted men, without clear purpose, addicted to cheap pleasures and quick fixes. It bombards you with constant sexual stimuli, normalizes compulsive masturbation, sells the illusion that release is liberation. But Marcus Aurelius knew that true freedom does not come from satisfying desires, but from mastering them. It does not come from surrendering to impulses, but from the ability to direct them consciously. The man who masters his sexual energy develops a magnetic presence that cannot be taught in leadership courses, a willpower that cannot be bought in self-help stores, a capacity for focus that cannot be developed through superficial techniques. He develops these qualities because he learns to operate from the most powerful energy source in human beings, the vital energy that nature intended for the creation of new life. When you channel this energy for creative purposes, when you transform sexual impulse into impulse for achievement, when you convert the urgency of pleasure into urgency of purpose, you are not just changing one aspect of your life, you are transforming the energetic basis of your entire existence. You are learning to operate from a source of power that most people waste on fleeting pleasures. Look at the men you truly admire, those who built empires, who created immortal works of art, who lead transformative movements. Observe their presence, their energy, their ability to maintain focus on long-term goals. You are seeing the results of sexual transmutation, not necessarily celibacy, but conscious channeling of vital energy for elevated purposes. Compulsive masturbation is the opposite of this. It is the dissipation of vital energy in sterile pleasures. It is the reduction of your capacity for focus. It is the decrease of your magnetic presence. Every time you give into it, you are choosing weakness instead of strength, distraction instead of focus, temporary pleasure instead of lasting power. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that discipline is not punishment, but purification. When you choose not to masturbate, you are not punishing yourself. You are purifying yourself, removing obstacles to your development, clearing channels so that your vital energy can flow in higher directions. You are practicing the art of self-mastery, refining your ability to choose consciously instead of reacting automatically. Sexual transmutation is one of the most powerful disciplines that exist because it works with the most fundamental energy of human beings. When you learn to master this energy, you develop the ability to master any other area of your life. You develop the willpower necessary to persist through prolonged difficulties, the capacity for focus necessary to carry out complex projects, the magnetic presence necessary to lead and influence others. The path is not easy. Modern society has created 1,000 distractions, 1,000 justifications, 1,000 reasons for you to continue wasting your vital energy on fleeting pleasures. But Marcus Aurelius knew that the difficulty of the path is exactly what makes it valuable. Anyone can surrender to impulses. That requires no skill, discipline, or character. But only a few learn sexual transmutation, the transformation of vital energy into directed force. When you begin this journey, when you start channeling your sexual energy for elevated purposes, you are not just changing a behavior. You are entering an ancestral tradition of men who learned to transform impulses into achievements, desires into creations, biological urgencies into existential urgencies. You are joining the lineage of history's great achievers, of men who learned that true strength does not come from satisfying desires, but from mastering them. Sexual energy is the most powerful force in human beings. When you waste it on compulsive masturbation, you are throwing away the fuel that could power your greatest projects, your highest achievements, your deepest purposes. When you learn to channel it consciously, you discover a source of power that can transform not only your life, but the lives of everyone around you. Marcus Aurelius understood that the man who masters himself can master any external circumstance. The man who learns sexual transmutation develops a type of self-control that extends to all areas of life. He is no longer a victim of impulses, no longer a slave to desires, no longer dependent on external pleasures to feel complete. He becomes the source of his own power, the creator of his own circumstances, the architect of his own destiny. This is the invitation Marcus Aurelius extends to you across the centuries. Stop wasting the most powerful force within you. Stop trading lasting power for temporary pleasure. Stop being a slave to impulses and become master of your own energy. Learn the art of sexual transmutation, the discipline that transforms ordinary men into extraordinary men, the practice that converts vital energy into directed force. The fire that burns within you right now can consume or create, destroy or build, weaken or empower you. The choice is yours. But choose consciously, knowing that every moment of immediate pleasure is a moment of future power that you are throwing away. Every time you resist the impulse, you are building the energy reserve that can fuel your greatest dreams. Every time you transmute instead of dissipate, you are strengthening the muscles of your willpower, expanding your capacity to achieve the impossible. The journey of sexual transmutation is not just about sex. It is about life, about purpose, about the transformation of vital energy into directed force. It is about becoming the kind of man who can sustain great visions, who can persist through prolonged difficulties, who can maintain focus on long-term goals while others are distracted by immediate gratifications. It is about discovering that the same fire that can burn in fantasies and masturbation can burn in revolutionary projects, in transformative visions, in achievements that leave lasting marks on the world. Marcus Aurelius knew that discipline is not limitation, but liberation. When you master your sexual energy, you do not become less of a man, you become more of a man. You do not lose vitality, you gain directed vitality. You do not deprive yourself of pleasure. You develop the capacity to create higher, more lasting, more meaningful pleasures than any fleeting sensation can offer. The man who practices sexual transmutation discovers that there is a deeper satisfaction than any orgasm, the satisfaction of creating something significant, of building something lasting, of achieving something that transcends his immediate desires. He discovers that there is a force more powerful than any sexual impulse, the force of a life lived with purpose, directed by elevated values, fueled by consciously channeled vital energy. This is the truth that Marcus Aurelius knew, that Napoleon Hill codified, that the great achievers in history discovered. Sexual energy is the key to personal power, to extraordinary achievement, to building a life that truly matters. Do not waste this key on cheap locks. Use it to open the doors to your greatest potentials, your highest purposes, your deepest achievements. The fire that burns within you at this moment can be the fuel that powers your greatest triumphs, or the force that consumes your greatest potentials. The choice is yours. Choose consciously, choose wisely, choose like a man who understands that true strength does not come from satisfying impulses, but from directing them for purposes that transcend immediate pleasure and create lasting value in the world.